Well, the controversial asset sales law will be passed early this week, and the first shares for Mighty River Power are expected to go up for sale in September. The government hopes that so-called mum and dad investors will buy up to 49% of the shares in a bid to keep as much of the assets locally owned. Well, Prime Minister John Key joins us now. Good morning. Now, a big week for the government, going ahead with what is an unpopular policy, the partial sales of assets. As far as you're concerned, though, anything is going to stop this being passed?
Well, there's always risks. You're aware the Mayoral Council are potentially going through the Waitangi Tribunal, so there's always some risks, but I'm confident the law will pass this week, and that will allow us to be in a position to go to the next stage, which is essentially the public offering for Mighty River Power.
Looking at some of the research at the weekend research poll which came out, showed nearly two-thirds of us opposed the sale. A referendum, although albeit would be non-binding, is being sought. They're looking at maybe 150,000 signatures at this stage, so they're probably about halfway there. Despite that, though, despite the public opinion, you are committed to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing on the referendum, by the way, is the Green Party is using your money, taxpayers' money, to hire 8 people. So this is the same political party that told you they don't have enough money to pay for Mojo Mathers to operate properly in Parliament, has enough money to go out there and collect signatures for a politically motivated referendum.
But it's a system in place which they're allowed to do, are they not? And if they're concerned about it.
Yeah, they're allowed to do it. That just means Parliamentary Services rules are pretty liberal. But my main point being that there's a degree of sort of hypocrisy about that, isn't there? In terms of, will anything stop us? Well, we campaigned that was the full campaign in 2011. I mean, essentially, if you think about it, Labor's entire campaign, along with the Greens, was to stop the mixed ownership model, and the government's proposition was, look, this is the good thing to do. It will allow us to buy more assets. So those people say, well, don't sell our assets. Well, we're actually buying other assets that allow us not to have debt. It'll allow New Zealanders to have something to invest in. I mean, this morning, Winston Peters in the paper saying we should use KiwiSaver accounts in the super fund to buy some of these assets. Well, hello, that's what we've been saying now for a long period of time.
Sure, but I mean, the opposition parties are also saying, let's look at the public support for this, for not partially selling off these assets or shifting, as you're saying, from one asset to another.
So the Green Party, who is making that claim, they were the people that led.
It's more than a claim, though, isn't it?
Well, they were the
people got a poll saying two-thirds of us don't want these partially sold.
Yep, they were the people who led the smacking debate, you might remember, and that was about 85 to 90% unpopular. But Sue Bradford and the Green Party said we should definitely do it.
The class size, about 80% said we don't like this, and the minds were changed.
Yeah, in the case of class sizes, it was a $40 million spend out of $10 billion. It wasn't a big part of the election campaign, although we wanted to lift overall quality, and we remain committed to doing that. In the case of this, over 1 million people voted for National in the last election. Now, except some of them will have voted for National, not necessarily liking this policy, but equally, if you look at that poll in the weekend, what it showed was, roughly 2/3 opposed and 1/3 in favour. It showed national support up from election night. So my main point is that I reckon there are about a third of people deeply opposed, and that's very much the sort of Labor Greens traditional base. There's about a third pretty much in favour, probably National's core base, and the other third are opposed, but not vehemently opposed.
And I guess the good news is the poll also showed maybe 60% of us would be interested in buying into the buying some of the float, which is good news. I just very quickly want to ask you about this Grant Smither story, which Sunday ran last night. This is about this murderer who's effectively being released for a week at a time.
Right.
Now,
I'm sorry.
Look, I apologise for throwing that at you then. But Garth McVicar this morning came in saying, can we possibly start looking at a law change? This is based on somebody who's been convicted of a murder, but is now under the care of the mental health department, being partially released at times, despite the fact he's not up for parole. And Garth McVicar is saying that's not fair on the victims or the victims' families that this is happening.
Yeah, I don't know the individual case, and I don't know the circumstances circumstances under which he's being released. But normally, if you are convicted and the Mental Health Act applies, then you effectively get no parole. That's because essentially you're unwell. And so the state has long-term care as opposed to a situation where you can be released. Now, there may be technical reasons why he's allowed out for a period of time. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know how historic the case is.
OK, look, I'm sorry for throwing that out if you hadn't seen the story, but it's something which we're looking at this morning and,
Sure.
And would be interested to get your opinion on at some stage. But, Prime Minister, thanks very much for joining us. Good luck this week with your...
Yep.
With the assets or the partial asset sale.
Yeah. OK.
We'll see how it goes. I imagine that we'll see it through by Thursday.
Yeah. By Thursday.
OK.
Yep.
Good stuff. Thanks very much.
Thanks.